Um, cool. Hi Sachin. Welcome to Founder Talks. So just क्या बोलते हैं? First start करना है?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, let's start with some introduction. Like, of course, we have read and researched a lot about interview vector, but why don't you, like, for everyone, just sort of break it down in simpler terms what the product is about and what you're trying to do with interview vector.
Sure, Parth. And thanks for having me in Founder Talks. It's a great pleasure. So what Interview Vector is, so we are into recruitment domain basically, and what we are trying to do is we are trying to make recruitment easy. In 90s or 2000s, recruitment was easy, but right now if you go and try to hire tech hiring, so there is a common job that founders say that taking a term sheet or taking funding is easy, but finding techies or hiring techies is a major problem. So that's one of the common jokes that is going on around, and that is what we aim to change. That we are trying to build a talent assessment platform or talent evaluation platform. Where you can evaluate engineers or candidates in a much better format through live interviews and everything. So that is what we are building, and it at least right now takes out the pain of evaluating so many candidates just for one position, and saves engineers time.
Understood. And
Interesting.
so Sachin, why this problem statement? Why not some other problem statement? Like what attracted you to this particular problem statement?
Well, I would say, brief background about me that is related to why we chose this problem. So I was working in Tower Research Capital. So I was an engineer myself and was working in Tower Research Capital before that. After that, I was working in ep4 AI. And a lot of my time was getting spent in taking interviews. And you would see in the market that everybody's trying to solve the problem of let's build a ATS, let's build a resume parser, let's build this and that, but nobody was solving the problems of taking interviews. Actually, nobody was solving it from the side of from the angle of an engineer. And well, I was an engineer, so I was taking almost every week or almost every other day I was taking interviews. And in general, I saw that it was consuming a lot of my time, and I was not able to spend that time on building products. So that's what got us started. This is a problem that is core to our heart. That and this was something that I used to look out, that if there was a platform with, or there was a friend who can take interview in on behalf of me, that would save the pain of me taking the interview. So that's how we thought, why not have a platform actually instead of a friend? Why don't we have a platform which everybody trusts, and people can also their interviews onto that platform and save engineers bandwidth.
So, Sachin, would it be right to say that your problem statement was that engineers today are, for the lack of a better word, wasting their time in interviewing other candidates, time that they could have done or utilized on coding, right? So, would you say that
Uh,
this is the problem statement?
it could be phrased a lot better.
Huh, definitely. So, the question here is basically, did you dabble with other solutions to this problem statement, or were you like, I don't want to take interviews, so I'll have a platform where other people will take interviews? Do you dabble with taking this problem statement? Did you dabble with other solutions for this?
So we saw what was there in the market. So let me actually give you a little background about what are the current solutions as well, and everything. Then you will read why this is the way that we chose.
Understood.
Well, right now, and I'll correct the wordings that you
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this as well. How
Sure,
to
sure. Yeah.
project the
Hmm.
problem statement. Uh, uh, so the problem was that right now what happens is that for any position you would get hundreds or 200s of CVs, resumes, and nowadays candidates are so educated that every resume looks alike. If you would see probably Shubham's and your resume, it might have almost a lot of common elements. And then there are platforms, or there are resume tips that through which it could parse it could move ahead of the resume screening part. And companies were doing resume screening because they could not interview every other candidate, right? In the past, if let's say, for example, let me put it like this. Let's say if you are hiring for a software developer, and you just get 5 candidates, and you don't have any other candidate, you would not go and do resume screening, right? You directly take the interviews because you have very limited funnel, and you don't have a 6th candidate at all. There is no means to get a 6th candidate, so you will interview them and see, who is the best one and who fits my bill, right? But what happened was, in 2010 or around in the early last decade, uh, there were a huge influx of engineers. So people wanted a resume screening, and people used to do it manually. That a lot of I have seen people who were earning more than a crore in tower research, and they were actually screening resume throughout the day. So that was the use case that they were not working on building products, but they were just screening resume every day, day in and out. And then there are a lot of platforms came, a lot of application tracking systems came that who would do resume screening and everything for you, and you don't have to spend time on that. Even after that, then the influx of engineers increased more. A lot more people got into computer science, they got into product development and software development, basically. Then it came the time of HackerRank and Hacker test, and you would send a online automated test, and you would filter candidates on top of that. But that does not complete the circle. Even you would not hire a person who has cleared a HackerRank test, right? You would still take the guy's interviews, right? So that was one of the things that every company was doing, and this is the trend that we saw. That, for example, in Tower Research, when I applied personally, I gave 9 interviews. Out of them, the only first one was the HackerRank test, and the remaining were one-on-one interviews. So companies were spending a lot of time in manually interviewing. And then we explored a lot of solutions that, could it be a bot who will be taking your interview and everything. But these things were replacing HackerRank, but they were not completing the, let's say, we were not able to move to the second round or third round or fourth round of interviews. And companies do need a manual interviewing platform only, where they can take interviews and everything. Or a human takes interviews. Because one of the things is that the technology is not so advanced, has not advanced so far that AI bot can take an interview right now. Otherwise, you guys would have also set up an AI bot here who would take a podcast, who would do a podcast, and you would not need yourself to be there. So that was the reason that we figured out that manual interviewing is the solution if you want to. Let's say for Tower, who took my 9 rounds of interviews, and 8 of them were manual. If I want to take 3 rounds or 4 rounds out of them, then it had to be manual. If I want to go for the majority percentage, it had to be manual. So that's how we came with this solution.
Understood.
But yeah, if you guys can build a good AI who can take podcasts or who can take interviews, I would love to have that.
Nice. So this seems like a problem statement that you had personally experienced on both sides of the spectrum, right? Like you had been on the other side when you were interviewing versus when you're giving an interview. And what was like, I'm just curious to know, like you'll obviously, when approaching such kind of a problem, you'll have a lot of thesis in mind, a lot of real-time anecdotal experiences, and some idea of what the problem is, what the solution should be like. Was there anything unexpected, like an unexpected challenge that you faced while solving for this, which is something that did not fall in line with what your perception about the problem was? And it was just like a new challenge that you wouldn't expect.
I don't think that exactly in the learn. So I think the idea always worked in the what we earlier thought. There are other unexpected or unpredicted things that happen. We used to think, that let's get all the smartest folks on the planet on our community who can take interviews on behalf of companies. And now these are smart people, they can take interviews and they will maintain good quality and everything. But what we realized was that, there has to be a mechanism who monitors these folks, who trains these folks on a regular basis, who monitors these folks on a regular basis and educates them. And if they are not performing good, then remove them as well from the platform. This is one of the most unexpected things that we saw. Because I was of the idea that, hey, these smart folks, they don't need any guidance. And anyone can come up and just create a community and start something like InterviewVector. So that was one of the major, and what we realized was that the smarter you are, you will try to take the easy way out to earn more money. So that was the problem that we figured out, that smart people try to take easy path out. They don't like to work hard. So that's why we had to build all the monitoring mechanism.
And one on a similar note, so one is that you have a community of smart people, right? And I'm sure that you also have smart people as employees for InterviewVector. Do you see the same things in the employees also? Where do you think that
It's true. It's
some
true
sort
everywhere.
true
It's true
everywhere?
everywhere.
This is very
And every
counterintuitive,
company in
actually.
the world, every
Huh.
company in the world, every place on the planet,
Huh.
that smart people try to take the easy path out. And that is the one of the reasons that companies try to hire smart people, because if they can find out a easy way, which is the most optimal way also, and works well for the company, why not take that? Why to take the hard path of brute force path? If we come in terms of technology.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Interesting.
Uh,
But just trying to go off on a tangent here, since we're talking about people and how this is essentially human behavior is consistent across different constructs. So recently there have been, like, in the recent few years, there's been a lot of like different conversations about how how companies are run, and do you need processes or do you not need them? Like a very famous example is the Netflix book that came out, No Rules Rules, right? And
I have read that.
they have a very you've read that?
Right.
Yeah, so they have a very different approach to just like letting people be, and removing processes and removing things. So what is your thought there, given like this observation, right? Like people will always try to hack, like smart
I
people will
think
try to hack
you
processes.
might have to go and read that book again. So
Mhm.
it has a lot of things. So if you would remember the leave policy, or let's say the budget policy in that book, where
Hmm.
what is the name of the author? I just can't recall it. Reed, right?
Huh. Reed Hastings.
Reed has seen, right? So Reed says that we had this budget thing that if you can spend anything and anything, and people who were booking, like business class for just a 1 hour flight.
Hmm.
They were booking the most expensive seats with the most expensive champagne and everything.
Right,
So
right.
these were the things that they also faced and everything.
Hmm. Hmm.
But what I'm saying is that you don't need processes and everything. What you need is a monitoring mechanism. In any company, even in Netflix, I think they have a monitoring mechanism also, or they have a yearly reviews, or every company has this yearly reviews and everything. And the
Hmm.
purpose
Hmm.
is that people should know that there are people who are monitoring you and everything. Or it could be monitoring. It could be, you don't need to show it to them. You can express it in terms of, let's say, appreciation, that hey, if someone has done good, you appreciate them,
Hmm.
and the other folks will get inspired by that. Hey, because this guy did something good, so he got appreciated and he got that's a little reward. So other people will also do
Right.
something like that. So you need to have and actually that is a monitoring mechanism. You monitor. That is the reason that how you got to know that this guy is doing something
Hmm.
good and you appreciated it, right? So
Right, right.
in terms of different wordings, you can put it like in any wordings, but you need to have something, a mechanism which
Hmm.
actually encourages people to do the right thing. What I for this particular example, when uh, where I was quoting the budget problem, that spend what Reed has said there is that, as far as I can recall it, that spend it like that, if you would is it in the greater good of the company or not,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So that is one of the mechanisms and everything. And on the other hand, companies, managers, or eventually someday, it is also written there. Reed has also said that uh, any day if you are caught that you are not doing in the
Yeah.
good of the company, then a strict action will be taken against you as well, right? So
Right, right.
that is a mechanism that they have also built. That people have been told that there are things going on, and it could turn into a good. story, it can turn into a step story as well, basically.
So, Sachin,
Makes sense.
like even I thought this key smart people are so driven, self-driven, and intrinsic motivation is enough to get the work done. But I think what you're also suggesting that an extrinsic motivation and external authority is needed even for highly driven individuals.
So depends on which category that you're talking about. So there is a common word that that is being used nowadays, that you try to. I just can't recall the exact wording, but it's like founders material employees. You
Uh,
generally
high
try to hire
agency.
people who have the founders
Uh,
mindset,
hmm.
people with founders mindset, right? Now these are people, and you incentivize according to, you tie them up with the company. For example, that is why people at higher position, they get much more equity of the company or reserves of the company. That if company grows fast, if companies grows 10x, then you will also grow 10x. If companies doesn't grow 10x, then you will not grow 10x, right? So that is a mechanism that already incentivizes for them to work really hard. For example, let's take my example of me. Now I am working in InterviewVector, and if I don't work hard, I know that the company will not grow 10x, and nor my rewards will. So there is no mechanism over me who is right now monitoring me, but this is this incentivization that has triggered that urge inside me to work hard and hard. So
Understood.
that is one thing. The second thing is, obviously all smart people, even me, for example, at certain stage right now we are too small, so that is the reason that these things are there. But even let's say if you go for a $500 million company, or $1 billion, or you go for with any unicorns, they do have these board meetings with the investors and everything, right, every month or so. So what is the purpose of that? Because the investors are also monitoring that how things are going. Are things going in the right direction? Do you need our guidance or anything like that?
Fair
So
enough.
those are kind of monitoring mechanisms even for the founders as well.
Fair enough. Moving on, Sachin, what's your story? Why startup? What made you start up? I remember when you
Uh,
said that Tower Research is one of the most sought after companies for computer science graduates in India, right? So why startup? What's your story?
so I was not a startup guy, to be very frank. So I
Oh,
never thought that I will do a startup, and I was always, I was not even confident enough that I could run a startup. To be very frank, I always had that idea that people in my batch who were really good, who were really smart, I thought that they will do a startup, and I'll be always stuck in a corporate job and everything like that. So things happen, but yeah, that is a story. So I would say, why startup? So it's more like you see a problem, then you relate to it. That is one thing, obviously. The second thing is, right, you get inspired by so many people. For example, when I was in college, so I did not have at that point of time there was not that startup boom or that much startup boom.
Hmm.
Or I was, or the second thing was, even I was not reading about right now kids are so educated that people in colleges are also tracking startups and everything. I was not. When I was in college, I didn't know much of the startups. I just know Flipkart and all the, because these were big companies, not a startup. But I didn't know that how many startups were coming up and how were they doing. But on the other hand, but it would be false to say that if they didn't leave an impact on me when I started about studying about them, I started tracking them. So when I was in Tower or when I was in ep4, so I was seeing that a lot of our peers, some seniors, and everyone who are doing really good, who have built $1 billion businesses or big companies, they were similar to us. They were from either from a good pedigree college, or they were a software developer, or they were something very similar to us, and they have been able to build their own startups. And it's a very interesting story. So when I was starting into IV, I was talking to some of the CTOs or some of the CXOs of unicorns, or even decacons as well. And I was talking to them, hey, what got you started as well? Why did you start? You were also, so that's the same question that you are asking me. So, and who was the most inspiring company for you that made you believe that you can build a business or you can do this? So, a lot of almost everyone said it was Flipkart. That Flipkart actually inspired a lot of people in India, a lot of us in India. That a common man can also build companies so huge. Right? If you would go with Sachin Mittal or Vinny Mansell, they were common men, right? In 2004 or 5, they were just graduated from college. They didn't have a silver spoon. So that is what inspired a lot of people, and then these people inspired us. So that is a wave that inspired, and so that's how I wanted to try out ideas. I wanted to try something out, but obviously the idea has to resonate with us. So, and Ivy was not the first idea that I tried. So there were a couple before Ivy as well that I tried out and saw that if they would work or not. Apparently they did not, but Ivy did. Obviously, and I would not say Ivy did also, but we are still in a very early stage.
Interesting. On a similar note, like this is like the part about what made you start up. On a very sort of materialistic level, what do you think starting up or being a founder, like what do you get out of it? Like what do you think on a worldly level you get from starting up? And if you got that otherwise, would you still start up?
That's a good question. So multiple things that you get out of startup, and I don't think that I will get that feel. So this is one. Sorry. So you would you would realize a trend if you would see that all the startup founders who do a startup and let's say they started kicked off and they are doing really good, and let's say they get into acquisition or everything, you would see a very similar trend that people would leave those companies after acquisition, let's say 1 year, 2 year down the line, and then start something again. So what I think is when you start up, so there are so many things that you get. So one is the risk, and right now I love taking risk. Now that feeling is something that you would not get into any company, let's say any stable company. Let's say if I join let's say Microsoft or TAR again, there is no risk, right? Or let's say even a startup, any other startup, let's say a Series B or Series C funded startup, there is not that much risk that I will be taking. Their founders will be taking it, but I will not be directly impacted by that, right? So that feeling gives you a high, a different high, and you want to be on the front seat of that. That is one thing. The second thing is, it gives you satisfaction as well. But it is related to the first point only, but it gives you a lot of satisfaction as well. That you're doing something and you're on the driver's seat. That is, and how you get the satisfaction, you get control also. You are in control when you are doing your own startup and everything. But on the other hand, let's say if you join some other company, you would not get that control or the thing. So one of my friends actually, say this very right. So one of my friends who is a startup founder and who has taken exit and is thinking again of building out something again. He tells me that, hey, we are all social psychopaths. We are not normal person. We are now social psychopaths, and we will live for this field that the control, the risk, and everything, and we get a different kind of high from this, and we will not be able to leave that. So I think that is the reason. If you would go with the trend, people who start up, if they join some company, they will leave after a year or two because they don't like processes. They like chaos, and they want a part of that. They actually want to create that chaos.
So when you say risk, Sachin, do you mean high stakes bets?
Yes, high stake bets, as in
I feel,
for example.
so just to add, basically, like, I feel a marketer taking a bet, will this campaign work or not, is also taking a risk. His reputation is at stake, and I understand that.
Let me
As a founder,
put it
you will be
another way.
taking higher
let
stake
me
risk.
put
Like,
it the other way. Let's say a marketer taking launching a campaign. Let's say if that campaign doesn't work out, what could in the worst happen to the marketer? He could go and launch another campaign because there's nothing going. Not obviously there is a monetary loss, there is other thing loss, but the company has still funds and everything. And right. On the other hand, when you are a founder, let's say if I launch a product, and let's say the product, let's say when I launched InterviewVector and the core product that we have right now, and let's say it doesn't work out, things can go in much more chaos than it would go when you are a marketer, right?
Fair enough.
Or let's say even if I'm a VP of product or a VP of engineering at some company and I'm launching a product, the failure of that product, I will not be on the front seat, right? There is someone else who is driving it. And let's say even if I'm driving that, the failure of that product is not going to impact me that much, then it is going to impact the founder directly, right?
Right.
Fair enough.
The risk for the founder is always much higher. So let's say a VP of engineering can always go and join some other company, right? At a better salary, at a better equity and everything. But for a founder, this is the only thing that they know right now, and they are doing.
I really like that point that a job is a job and you can always have another job at a different company. But for founders, that is the company. You cannot leave the company.
People with founders mindset, they still can go somewhere else, and they will not have direct impact. They are earning and everything. For example, for me, I'm not taking a salary right now, and even people who are at Series B, Series C stage, they are not taking their market salaries. They are generally founders are taking very less salaries than they could have taken if they were in market. So for them, it is like that. This is the major thing that if the product works or
a
not.
captain cannot abandon its ship.
It doesn't apply to people who are at founders mindset because they are taking a decent salary and everything. And at the end of the day, it is not going to directly impact them.
Fair enough.
On other ways, you can say on my resume, it will say that what are the good decisions or bad decisions that I took as a founder to make InterviewVector big. On the other hand, let's say if you are a VP of engineering at Cred, you would say that, hey, I launched this product. Let's say if this product worked or not, or 10 other things that will not reflect on your resume, but that will reflect on founder's resume, right?
Right. Interesting. So moving on, wanted to explore some things around the process or like the whole experience of running a company, right? So so firstly, what I would like to ask you is like, what do you think about what kind of people do well in early stage versus late stage, something like a 2-3 years into the startup? Like, what are those traits which make people better at one thing versus the other?
So I'll not be able to comment on the second part because we are not there yet. I do have a fair idea of, but after talking to so many founders and everything, but I'll not be the best one to comment on that. What I'll be able to comment on the first stage is that you need hustlers. Hustlers, you will need people who can work day in and day out, and who actually want to take you forward, who actually thinks that this is my company and everything. So again, the founders mindset people, and these people are very rare in the market. So right now, even we have a few people who are working day in and day out, and even let's say if there is any issue, before me, they get to know what are the problems, and they resolve them. And I know people who have not taken a single leave in 3 months, and I'm saying single off, and I'm saying including Sundays. They have not even taken a single Sunday off in 3 months. Although that is not recommended. That is burn out a lot of people. But at that point of time, we did not have much workforce, and we were facing challenges that how to scale it up and everything. And then people came in that, hey, let me step up and let me work even on the weekend and everything. And they worked for continuous 3 months.
Sachin, what would you say? Who would? Sorry to interject. Please
Huh?
continue.
No, go on.
So I was saying, what do you think who would do better, a generalist, a hustler, or let's say a sniper within a lot of expertise? Who would do well in an early stage startup?
Depends. If you're onto a 0 to 1 journey, you would need generalists. If you're on 1 to 10 journey, right now we are on a 1 to 10 journey. When we were on 0 to 1 journey, we needed journalists and we hired journalists. The thing is that if you go for people who have expertise in one specific area, first of all, they come expensive. That is for sure. On the other hand, journalist wants to prove something, prove themselves. That is one thing for sure. And journalists, they don't shy away from doing too many things. On the other hand, an expert might shy away that, hey, I don't want to do this thing, I don't want to do this thing, I want to just do this thing.
Okay.
So that is, I think I preferred hiring a journalist earlier, but nowadays, from the past 2 or 3 months, for the past couple of months, we have been trying to hire experts because now we have proper departments. And even one more thing, when you are very early, when you're into 0 to 1 journey, a lot of time you don't know what are the specific roles as well. Let's say if I go for hey, I want to hire a specialist in this domain, but you don't know yourself that, hey, actually, is this domain big enough to hire a specialist or not, right? It's once you form the processes, it's once you build the business, then you get to know that, hey, which are the areas which needs major attention, and you need a specialist for that.
Right. So what happens to the journalist then? Let's say you hire journalists for 0 to 1. Do they evolve to become expertise when the company is 1 to 10, or do they continue to remain journalists? And so from a founder,
everyone
evolves.
Everyone evolves. So for example, even when we started out, right now at what stage I'm a much evolved person than I was 1.5 years ago. So everyone evolves in the journey.
So
people who are
is
into
the evolution for a journalist, the next step for a journalist is to gain expertise, or to just get into more and more chaotic projects?
Depends actually. It depends on the person to person cases. It's not a very generic thing that you can say. For example, there are a few journalists which I'll be taking. Let's say if we are launching a new vertical right now. Let's say if we are launching a new product, I would be taking some of the journalists to that product. Hey, we have created chaos in the first product, and now we need specialists to clear that mess. Now let's create chaos into the second product as well, and let's try to do a GTM for that, go to market for that. That is one way. The second way is obviously where people learn, and you see that that journalist interest is in that domain, or he or she can actually work a lot better in that domain. So you would want them to work in that domain, and since they have worked for the past one year or past 1.5 years, they have a very deep understanding of that particular problem. So you can just guide them, or you can take help from the other specialists to just form the processes and train them and upskill them so that they can become a specialist as well. For example, there are a lot of companies who does leadership training programs, or they hold seminars every month or so with the leadership team, where they tell them that, hey, what are the things that you should do, and what are the things you should not, and how do you excel in your particular role. So that is another thing that a lot of journalists can go through. But as an early stage company, you would not do these seminars, but you will always sit together with those journalist people if they want to be a specialist in that one thing.
Sachin, on a similar note, so I always used to believe that cracking the right product or having a product market fit is the key to a great startup. Talking to you and other founders, I've realized that there are a lot of other things that goes into running a startup which are not as glamorous as finding or cracking the product market fit. Can you share some of those things that you realize that in product there's more to a startup than a product itself?
Well, there are a lot of the things. For example, we for if you say product market fit. There are a lot of companies who have cracked product market fit. They went to Series A, they went to Series B, and or even they some of them become a $500 million companies or $1 billion companies, and then they failed, right? They got shut down. So companies are much more complex, or startups are much more complex than just finding a product market fit. Obviously, finding a product market fit is the first step. Is the first and most crucial step. But then there are so many steps that you have to do. For example, one of the challenges that we have right now, since we have closed that product market fit case and right thing, the thing is that how do we scale and how do we maintain quality while scaling up? The third would be not just scale domestically. How do you scale internationally? How do you find a GTM for that? How do you build your sales engine? How do you build your marketing engine? A lot of the things are there. How do you build relations with your customers? How do you build relations with funded startups have this different problem, that how do you build relations with VCs, and a lot more things are there which are much complex. How do you build campaigns and everything? So product market fit is just one thing. If let's say if you're not able to scale your product after you have found a product market fit, then there is no use, right? You will be just stuck at one step number one or stage number one, but you will not be able to go to 100 stage, right? Finding everyone wants to complete that 0 to 100 journey.
Right.
So that is
Interesting. Next one is actually about being a founder. So wanted to ask you that what, according to you, are the top skills that a founder should have, and which ones do you think you are best at, and which ones do you think you're actually not very good at?
I think sales is the biggest important thing. Second thing is I would say talking gibberish. that is also there. You should know to you should know how to speak nonsense things and still make people believe that these are the true things. These are the things that would take them to the top of the world. So sales is definitely the top of the list. The passion is, and sales will come only when you have passion. Let's say if you don't have passion for solving that problem, you will not be able to sell it to anyone. For example, consider it like that. If you yourself are not motivated, if you are not able to convince yourself, how can you convince someone else that this is the world's most important problem that we want to solve? There are so many problems that a lot of companies are solving, right? Let's say when you're doing hiring, you want to sell your vision and you want to sell that this is the only problem that matters in the world, right? Or this is the problem that can take you to the top of the world. So sales is much the biggest problem that biggest skill that I think is needed. And it comes from passion. It comes from obviously insights about the problem statement and all of these things. And then there are different things that happens through sales, and which are different skills. I would say it's more like connections, building connections, and everything that you need, connecting with people. And connecting with people is also sales on. Right now, we do have a lot of people, who are getting poached by different companies, or they had higher salary offers from different companies, but they joined us because of the connection that we were able to get. So that is second thing. The third thing is, I would say, let's say as a founder, you would know how to. What is a no, sorry. How to build the MVP, or how clarity, if you're an initial early stage founder, then what is your MVP? What is a deeper understanding of the problem statement? That is, I think, majorly most of the things that if you are able to. Sorry, last four things, which is much important, which I suck at, is you need to be organized. You need to be a lot more organized. I think if you would say just two skills, one is you need sales skills, and three things: sales skills. Second is deep insights of the problem or understanding, which you anyways need. Third thing is you need to be organized a lot. I'm very good at sales. I suck at being organized. Even my email box is like filled with thousands of messages right now, or my WhatsApp is filled with thousands of messages, which I have not been able to organize and everything. But it's more like that I have created a mess out of it and I have created a chaos. And that is why we have onboarded a lot of people who are specialists who can solve these problems. So generally founders are generalists. At least the sales founder is a generalist. Sales founder is generally not a specialist unless until you are, let's say, a second name founder or a third time, or you're a very senior guy. That is it. And hustle, obviously hustle. You need to hustle a lot.
And like we talked about the skills that are required, Sachin. How we talked about skills that are required to be a good founder, right? How do you deal with the lows in the founder's journey, or self-doubt or anxiety? How do you deal with those kind of emotions?
Yeah, they are every day. But these things are always there. I think one of the good things is you need someone with you can rant out on the things on, and you can discuss your problems and everything. So I think a mentor plays a big role in this. So we have a couple of mentors, who help us out, or even I can call them at 1 a.m. in the night and discuss with them, that these are the problems. What do you think? And it is not necessary that they will come up with solutions. It is just that they understand your problem, they understand your pain, and you are able to discuss with them, you are able to tell them. Then a lot of anxiety things or other things go away. That is you need. And since you are talking to a mentor is someone who you look up to. You see that these are people who have done really well in the career, or who you aspire to be. So while discussing problems with them, you feel a lot relaxed, that hey, I have someone to lean on. I have someone who will who I can discuss problems with. And mentors should be ones that you don't need to message them that hey, can we get on a call. It should be like directly call Karlo, and they'll pick up. If they don't, they'll message, hey, can I call you back in 15 minutes.
I know. It's a very interesting point.
So yeah, we have a couple of mentors in IV. So, and these are people who I didn't have an access to when I started out, but it was like that whenever. Whenever we get into contact with them, we just ask them that hey, will you help us? I need mentorship and everything. I just asked them, Frank, and they just agreed to it that hey, yeah, we connect to the problem. We would love to connect with you because we saw a huge potential in you, and we would love to mentor you as well. So a lot of people generally say yes. And one important thing is that mentors are generally people who don't expect anything in return. So you need to find a good mentor.
Right.
Enough.
So it's not a give and take relationship with mentors. You can't have a mentor who sees it as a give and take relationship, because then it's more like a business that you're doing. Generally, good connections, they don't do businesses. For them, your connection is the thing that they are actually getting.
Fair enough.
Right. Makes sense. Super interesting, Sachin. Before we end, actually, wanted to hear from you, like, what is your long-term vision for Ivy? Like, where do you see it going? And what's like your North Star orientation on a long-term?
To capture the world, I think that would be the simplest way to put it forward. But yeah, I do see that right now recruitment is right now broken into pieces. You would see a lot of news lines. You would see a lot of people ranting out on Twitter, a lot of people ranting out on LinkedIn, and every other social media platform that hey, we are not able to hire, we are not able to do this and everything. So our idea is that if we can be a we want to build an end-to-end platform which solves recruitment, and not just for tech hiring, but for non-tech hiring as well. And build a global solution which can help just not companies in India, but overall the globe. And then solve it something from the candidates angle side as well. Right now we are solving it for companies, but we don't want to forget the angle that so one of the problems that happens right now is that a lot of companies, they don't empathize with the candidate. They don't see that these candidates might be potential, or they are actually the people. Companies want to hire at the end of the day, right? They don't want to reject candidates and everything. They are there to hire, but a lot of companies tend to lose out on good talent, and there is an opportunity cost as for the company as well as for the candidate because of these problems. So we don't want a world where candidates are missing out on the best opportunities, where companies are missing out on the best candidates, because then there is you would see a lot of news lines on this as well, right? That, for example, Facebook rejected the guys from WhatsApp in their interview, and it costed them $20 billion, right? So there are a lot of things, a lot of such things are happening as well.
Right. That's interesting.
So yeah, that is what we.
This is an amazing chat. Thank you so much, Sachin, for taking the time out. I'll stop recording. Any other ending notes?
I think ending notes. I didn't come prepared with that. So that is yeah. But I'll say right now for let's say for people who are trying to start out, and this is the best time to start your startups, or people who are actually looking for starting out the career as well. So I have two different advices for both the people. For people who are trying to start up, try to see what problem you're solving. Is it good enough? Is it big enough? And everything. And also try to see what is the minimal amount of work that you can do to get to the MVP. People try to build fancy platforms before going to selling. Actually, do sales first and then build your product. If you can convince 100 people or 10 people to buy your product, then why do you want to build a product first? That is one piece of advice for the people who are trying to start up. And this is a great time to start your own venture. For people who are starting their career, or they are doing jobs and everything. I think one piece of advice, that one of the trends that I have seen in the market is that people are changing jobs within 6 months. Every 6 months, they will gain a lot in the 6 months because they will get a salary hike and everything. But that will hurt them in their long-term career. This is going to impact because you don't learn anything much. You don't learn much in 6 months or 7 months. It takes at least 1.5 years or 2 years or more to actually get out of the role, to actually learn everything that role has to offer, and then you can go to the next level. Right now, I have seen people who are just changing jobs every 6 months for the past 2 years, and they don't have actual skills, and now it is going to hurt them. So that is what I would suggest people to avoid. And unless until you don't like the company culture, or the company is you're not learning at all, only then change jobs, or have that period that you're actually looking for a different job because of learning rather than just plain money. Obviously, money is a part of it, but learning is the for example, take a case. 10 years down the line, you guys would want to be CXOs of some company, right? Or at a leadership level. But if you guys don't have a skill, then you can't grow to the CXO levels. And the amount of money that you are trying to optimize right now, generally everyone earns a lot more when they are in the end of their careers, because then they will be at very high salaries. So you should optimize for that rather than saving, let's say, a few few lakhs right now.
That was actually quite insightful. Thank you so much, Sachin. This was wonderful having you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shubham. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Sachin.